Hi, I'm Emily in Los Angeles.
And I'm Dean in North Carolina.
And I'm Jeri Ellsworth in Silicon Valley. This is Hackaweek, episode 9.
Woohoo!
Ooh, did I do it right?
Yeah, close enough. Coast to coast, you know.
Coast to
I know
coast.
that by now because we're famous, I hope.
Yeah,
Space reminds me of Space Ghost, Coast to Coast.
it does. That's what I
That
thought.
was a great show. I love that show.
Can I be the kind of evil bug in the corner?
Yes.
Yes.
What is that bug's name? I forget his name.
My favorite was Brack by far. Brack was cool.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is going to be fun.
Yeah,
thanks for
that
being
was
on.
great. Yeah. God, so much going on, like, you know, right now with all the maker community thing with the whole deal with Maker Media and all that. I listened to some the latest podcast from Make It, great podcast by the way, and they were talking about it, you know, what they think, where it's going to go, what's going to happen. And we had Caleb on last week, Caleb Kraft, and he was saying that maybe it's going to survive. It looks like it's gonna. Who knows? It's all about money.
Yep. It's kind of sad, isn't it? You know, Maker Faire having to shut down. But yeah, I think there's going to be some vestiges of it living on for sure.
Well, definitely. It's just that maker community. I mean, Emily and I already talked about that a bit, how that's just going to continue no matter what. It's that tribal thing, you know? So
Makers got to make.
that's right. It's a
No,
compulsion.
I saw a student here at Caltech where I work, and he was wearing a shirt like that, and I was like, "Hey, I like your shirt," and he looked so frightened, like it was like a deer caught in the headlights, and I was like, "Hey, relax, kid. I'm just enjoying your T-shirt. like you can go on your way now."
Wow. Traumatized the poor guy. Well, anyway, Jeri, we just want to kind of, if viewers and listeners that don't know who you are, I've been acquainted with you online since I think about 2007, maybe something like that. Back when you were doing the videos, it was Fat Man and Circuit Girl, right?
Oh yeah, that was way back.
Yeah, you were like video streaming before it was a thing.
Yeah. I suppose you want to know a bit about my background.
Right.
So I've been a maker my entire life, ever since I was probably like 5 or 6 years old enough to grab a screwdriver from my dad's toolbox and start taking apart my toys. So I did race cars. I did that for 5 years. I used to build them and I used to race them. And then I opened a chain of retail computer stores in the 90s and grew that to 5 stores until the whole computer store market like just imploded in 2000. And then I moved to I started coming to Silicon Valley and started brute forcing my way into doing electrical engineering for startups down here. It was really tough to actually do that, but I managed to kick off a career without going to school for electrical engineering. Then to get to the part you're talking about with videos, I started working with a company called NewTek that made a box that you just plugged into the internet that would stream video back when streaming video was not an easy thing to do, and YouTube was super duper early. And so I'm like, well, I'm working at this company making video compression boxes. I should figure out what this video streaming thing is. So I started this little series with a video game musician called George Sanger. And so his nickname was Fat Man. And so he's like, I'm going to call you Circuit Girl. And so every Sunday we would get together much like this, and the two of us would invent things, and then we would share them live video stream to whoever that would log in. We ended up getting a huge following. It was really surprising. And then from there, I started doing a bunch of YouTube videos and trying to do hard science in my garage, like making semiconductors. Sometimes I do art projects, like I made a Commodore 64 bass guitar, which is a Commodore 64 computer that has the neck of a bass guitar on it and actually runs all the sound through the original Commodore sound chip. And
Which somebody stole, as I remember.
yeah, someone stole it.
Yeah,
We were having like a hacker, thing at my co-founder's house, and it just disappeared after it. It's really sad.
that sucks.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the bad side. There's always a bad side and a good side to everything.
Yeah. Sorry that was long-winded. So that's my my background. Done some stuff.
I've actually heard the more long-winded version on a couple other interviews, but quite an interesting background, especially with the whole computer store thing during that time.
Yeah, where was your chain located?
It was in Oregon. So I had a chain of stores, Monmouth, Independence, Eugene, Corvallis, Canby. Someone actually just wrote to me. I mentioned that in a podcast recently. I'm like, yeah, I had a store in Canby and some of these other places. And they're like, do you know your store is still running in Canby? I'm like, really? Like 20 years later, like the store is still going? I can't believe it. Because in 2000, like after year 2000, it was like a booming year or prior to 2000 is a booming year for us because everyone is upgrading because the end times were coming. And so we're upgrading all these computers and all of a sudden sales dropped to zero afterwards. And so I eventually just gave my stores away to the employees and said, like, if you can make a go of it, have fun, I'm going to go do something else. But yeah, one of the stores is still going. I can't believe it. I'm not sure if it's the same proprietor or not, but.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's like how there's a couple of Radio Shacks here and there that have survived because like someone took over a Radio Shack and they're just like kind of forging their own way without like the parent brand anymore. They're just like stocking electronics kits and whatever. And it's like, hey, that's cool. Like there's like one in Michigan or something like that. And they're just kind of on their own and they're doing it, which is pretty neat.
I love that. Maybe you guys know, I heard, it was probably just a rumor that Adafruit bought the name Radio Shack.
I haven't heard, but that's kind of cool if they did.
It's a cool rumor. I don't know. I think I would have heard more about it, but
yeah, I could see how that would be possible, I suppose. That's a weird story in and of itself, the whole Radio Shack thing. Because I'm sure Jeri and I both had that moment when you were, teenager in your 20s, walked into a Radio Shack, or when was the first time you walked into a Radio Shack? How old were you?
Oh, I was probably like 9 or 10, just old enough to be able to ride my bike there. Well, I lived in this really tiny, tiny town, and there were no resources for nerds like me that wanted to do computers and electronics, but we had a Radio Shack. So I would go there and, I was building pirate radio stations and things like that. And, I'd pay my like $4 for a power transistor and a little blister pack, but it was
10 or 11 for me, something like that, shopping with my mom. It's like, Mom, can we go in there for a minute? And I walked in and it was like, just please buy me everything.
Oh yeah, and those god-awful Radio Shack pencil soldering irons that would last about a month weeks. And then they would decompose to dust.
Terrible. They were terrible. I don't know how many of those I went through. It was years before I got a real soldering iron, but they made you, maybe like, the shitty tool made you a better, craftsman at soldering because you had such a crap tool to work with.
I think so. I mean, I was doing everything to try to keep my little Radio Shack pencils going. I would, take the file and try to file the tip down and it would corrode immediately.
Constantly, till it was like an 1/8 of an inch long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I didn't even know that like pencil soldering irons were a thing when I was a kid. And like I was trying to do electronics, but like my dad didn't know anything about this stuff and I didn't have any resources really. So I was using his like soldering gun, pull the trigger.
The
and, like,
Weller.
Worst time soldering. And like half the reason was because I was using that thing. And the other half was because like I was like, Dad, do we have solder? And he gave me solder. But it was plumbing solder, and I didn't know what it was. Like, just the worst time trying to make anything. I'd like burn up all my components and just get solder everywhere.
And all that acid core solder eating everything up.
Yeah, it just all turns green in a week, and you wonder why. I had the same one, Emily. That's what I started out with. My dad's Weller, two settings too. I think it was like 15 and 35 watt. There were 2 clicks to the trigger.
Yeah, I think my dad's was from Sears. It was a Craftsman. It was this big black heavy thing. Yeah. But yeah, it had you could toggle the trigger in 2 directions to like the 2 wattage. Yeah.
Wow, you guys had a deluxe soldering gun. I think my dad only had one that was just full trigger, full throttle. I ended up using the thing, I don't know, maybe coax shields and stuff like that. But I eventually burned the tip out and I didn't realize you could actually replace them. So the tip had like busted apart. Yeah. So I had to like bend it past and get it to just barely like spring close so it would still get hot.
Yeah.
I used to make them out of coat hanger wear. I made dozens of them out of coat hanger wear, but they wouldn't last very long. They burn up quick too. And they didn't tin worth a damn.
You guys are smarter than I was.
So one of my Twitter friends, his name, he goes by Rue Moore. I don't know what his real name is, but he built a little jig on a piece of board for making those tips. So he just takes a piece of copper wire of like whatever gauge, and it's just a bunch of screws put into this board, and he bends a tip, and he was like making a tip like in 10 seconds, and he just made a tip, and he had like 20 tips. And I was like, oh my God, dude. But that's how he does it, because he doesn't want to go buy them, and like they corrode because they're just copper, but like then he just makes a new one. I was like, holy shit, dude, that's awesome.
Did he like smash the kind of pointy part of it or something to thin it out?
Yeah, you do his little bend and then smack it with a hammer and then on to the next one.
Oh, ingenious. A similar story to that. This is going to be really a tangent, but I met a guy that worked at the Estes rocket motor company, the little amateur rocket motors. And he was telling me how they make those like terrible igniters that never work. So they take a piece of wire, they run it across the fixture, and then they have a little guillotine knife that comes down and smacks it and makes a little thin spot in it. And then they bend it and tape it and dip it into some gunpowder like material. But I was, as a kid, I always wanted to make those igniters and had no clue how to do it. But the process to make them is extremely simple.
Yeah.
We used to make them out just nichrome.
Yeah. At some point, I ended up with a whole bunch of like 8-watt resistors, and I just started using those in place of those igniters because I was like, I have a bunch of these and they're really cheap. And, like they worked really well. Because I had to convince my parents to take me to the hobby store because there wasn't one like I could just walk to or ride my bike to. And then they were expensive. So it was like, well, I had all these resistors. So I just started using those, and they worked surprisingly well. I had fewer problems with them than I did with the dumb Estes ones. So,
Again, you guys are way smarter than I was. I ended up burning 2 acres of grass because I tried to light a rocket by sticking a sparkler up in the bottom of it. And whatever this contraption trying to get the sparkler up in the bottom of it caused the rocket when it took off to like fall over sideways and go shooting through all the dry grass.
Well, so you got a nice grass fire going.
Oh, it was bad.
Wow, scary.
I started plenty of fires. Like, I think somewhere in like scouting, I learned how to make one of those monkey's paw things out of rope where it's like a ball on the end of a rope, right? And like, I just had it like sitting around my room forever. And then like one day I was out in the front yard and I was like, I have an idea. And I dipped the ball in kerosene and I lit it on fire and I was swinging it and it's making this big like circle of fire. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really cool. And then it burned through the rope and the burning ball flew all the way across the street, probably like 70 feet, and landed in the neighbor's bushes and caught all their bushes on fire.
Oh my God.
So bad. They were not happy.
Wow.
Like
You're lucky you didn't set your hair on fire, your beautiful long hair.
Oh man, that's like something out of a Marvel movie. That's crazy.
I was quite a pyro myself.
Yeah.
Kids, if you're watching this, don't play with matches. It's bad.
Yeah, or put a cable inside that rope.
Piece of metal.
Right. Just hack that thing. Well, we usually ask our guests and each other every week, what's the craziest thing you recently did that was a mistake that you made that you kind of went, oh, well, I learned something from it though, because, I'm sure you're aware how that works with mistakes. They can be good things, and that's how you learn. So any kind of a recent one that was...
You guys go first. Let me think.
Yeah, okay.
You go first.
See. No, the pressure's on. Okay, no, let's see. This week, not so much anything in the shop because it's been all about the business. I know Jeri can relate to that. When you're running a business, sometimes it just takes over everything. It has to. I don't really know if there's been anything that was one of those significant moments where, other than putting some stuff together this week where I had all these pieces and parts, and I had 2 carburetors to build. They were like 300 parts each on this one carburetor. It's a ridiculously complex thing. And 3 different times I thought I was finished with the carburetor, and I wasn't when I set it aside and looked at it later. No, I forgot that part. And so then I went and got these little plastic bins. So I guess the mistake was just trying to work from a pile of parts thinking you've got the whole thing done. And so I got organized where everything is in a bin. And once the bins are empty, then I know I've actually completed the carburetor. So That's
Yeah.
probably about the closest thing I could say to a mistake this week. That was something that I learned something from and improved upon a method. So.
Well,
I mean, I have a little stupid one. I went out camping this weekend, doing a little gold prospecting and a little ham radio stuff. And I wanted to do some radio stuff. And so I strung up an antenna and got it all going, got the radio going, and then plugged in the computer because I wanted to do a digital mode, digital communication over ham radio. Opened up the laptop and started the ham radio software. And it said, oh, this version of the software is only good until, some day that was 3 days before. So, lesson learned, if you're going to go way out into the woods with no cell phone or internet connection, test all your radio gear before you do all the work to string the antennas up into the trees, and just to find out that you can't use the expired software.
Make sure you're completely updated while you have a connection.
Yeah. But one good thing came from, we were in a campground, so people saw us stringing the stuff up. So people came over and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" So I got to tell people about ham radio and educate people. And then we pulled out the 1 watt violet laser and shot it into the sky and impressed everyone.
Awesome. That's cool.
So I don't think I have a fail since last week. And Dean, if I've mentioned this on a previous episode, go ahead and stop me. But I think my last big fail was when I picked up, it was a thermal printer that I got out of the e-waste at work here. And it was meant as like an ultrasound printer, right? So you feed it composite video and then like you press print and then it captures whatever's like in its memory right then. And it prints.
Oh, is that one of those composite video input type?
Yeah.
I have one on my SIM.
Cool.
My electron microscope. Okay, go ahead.
So I picked it up out of the e-waste, and like half the time the e-waste here, it's like actually broken, and half the time things are just like, well, they got a new one, so they're just throwing the old one out. Well, this one was broken, and it was an issue with the power supply. And so I was troubleshooting the power supply, and it's just a switch mode power supply. I'm trying to figure out, like, why does this thing not work? Like, there's voltages in some places on some rails and not on others. And I'm like testing this thing, and like I can't figure it out. And I unplug it to like flip the board over to look at it, and like I curl my thumb around the board and my thumb touches like 2 traces that go to a big cap, and I put 400 volts through my thumb, and it made 2 nice big black smoky spots on my thumb. And that hurt quite a bit. So I guess I learned to always make sure your caps are discharged, which is probably something I should have learned a long time ago.
They'll hammer you. Jeri's got a burn finger story, don't you, Jeri?
Oh, yeah. Back to rocket fuel, yeah. Yeah, I learned, when you're making sugar rocket motors, don't, try to hold the rocket fuel in your fingers if you're testing it. Sometimes it burns faster than you expect.
Really fast.
And then there's also a Make tie-in to that. So the folks at Make Magazine commissioned a drawing done of me, because there was a picture of me online holding my finger up like, I'm so proud I burned the tip of my finger off. And so they commissioned this picture of like me as a robot with like smoke shooting out of my finger. So thank you, folks from Make Magazine. That was
that's a good one. That's been your avatar, your Twitter picture a couple of times here and there.
I know, I love it. I mean, just because there's so much love behind it. It was great.
It's a good one. Yeah, it is. It's great. It actually captures your whole essence pretty good too. Whoever do it, it's a great character. Yeah, that's a good one. I had one YouTube viewer do that. They just got his thing in the mail one day, and I'm not even sure how he got my address, which was a little bit creepy, but it might have been somewhere where I posted something on a forum, somebody else, and they picked it up. But anyway, it was cool. It was a caricature that he drew, and he said, go ahead, keep it, use it however you want, and it was before I had some dental work done, and it was like, I had a tooth with a cavity, but he just drew it as a missing freaking tooth. So I'm like, it's hillbilly, Dino. It was great. I got it around here somewhere still, but caricatures are like that, You see
I gotta love all the like really heartfelt things that my fans send to me. It's really, really flattering. I mean, I feel like I don't deserve it. It's, I don't even know how to describe it. Just occasionally there's like this comment that will come in at just the right time, or, someone will send me something, or
right.
It's just really flattering, because I just do this because I just have to build and I have to make. It's
Sure.
like, if there wasn't an audience there, I would probably be building and making anyway. So I definitely would be.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the way it was with me. And then, I saw you doing videos and went, hey, I think I could do some videos. It'd be kind of fun. Some of these ideas I have on forums. And then I put up a YouTube video initially to do a little bit of that, and then found out that I liked it. And then I realized you could actually do the sharing thing with people, inspire people, and you get a little bit of money from the monetization on YouTube. So why not?
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. So it's, it's kind of turned into grocery money. It's definitely not a living for me, but
yeah,
nice. And I do like the,
like 30,000 hours away from getting monetized. So I've got a ways to go yet, but maybe I'll get there one of these days. They've tightened up the rules since a few years ago. So it's a lot harder to get monetized now.
Oh, once you do it, you're going to get so rich. That's a joke, of course.
Exactly. There's a few people, very few one, but it's a funny thing. In the last few years, it's pretty much just like nonsensical bullshit makes the most money.
Yeah.
And as someone who like puts all their heart and effort into doing these like half-hour long edited down videos that I'm sure 5 hours that goes into that or more, 20 sometimes, and then you see that and you go, God.
I always find it funny on my YouTube channel. Like, there'll be a video where it's like, to do semiconductors at home, it literally took me 5 years of research and experimenting. And before I did my first video, and there was some nice views on it, or comments and views on it. And then I do something that's just completely like simple, like artistic, and it's like 1 million views. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Happens
that was a really
time and time again.
neat. That was a neat little series too, by the way, that you making the semiconductors. I followed that when it happened.
It's been a long time since I did one of those videos, but I've been collecting gear. So now I have a reactive ion etcher. I have a new sputter coder. Someday when I'm not so busy, that series will kick back into gear again. So, this is, Amy and I have this dream of doing a project where it's maybe over the holidays, where we live stream kind of like a Yule log, but it's actually the diffusion furnace for the chips.
Nice.
Because it takes a long time to do the chips, right?
Yeah.
You do some really exciting work for 30 seconds, like putting the pattern onto the wafer, and then you put it in a furnace and wait 6 hours. But we're thinking about inviting friends over, celebrating, live streaming it. And then at the end, we'll have some transistors, and then we'll do guitar pedals with them, because these transistors suck so badly that all they'd be good for is distortion. So
nice. That's cool. Yeah.
I think she came up with the idea of calling them, I think one day I said the FETs are kind of mushy. The transistors are mushy. And she's like, well, we'll just call it the Mush FET guitar pedal.
Mush FET.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know if you've seen any of that, Emily, on Jeri's channel. Yeah. Go dig and drill down a little in the channel and just look for that. Really cool little series on making your own friggin' transistors.
They talk about how flattering and like humbling doing some of these videos are. I probably did that 10 years ago or 12 years ago. And there is like a high school kid that's now done his own transistors. There's a kid that's like in college that's doing like super complicated, like full ICs. And it's because of those videos that they got into this. And there's some other kid that's got an electron microscope, and I ran into him at, I don't know, the Hackaday SuperCon. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And he comes up to me and he's like, I got an electron microscope because of you, and tell me all about your electron microscope. How many electron volts is the source? He's like rattling off all these specs, like, what's the astigmatism like? I'm like,
it's great.
I don't know. You know more about electron microscopes than I do now. So
that's cool.
That is cool.
Inspiring people is a jolly, I must say.
Yeah. I had kind of a fun experience on Saturday. I went to an art show in a warehouse with a friend of mine, which was like whatever. It was honestly kind of ridiculous. It was a bunch of hipsters like with their art, and like some of the art was cool, and a lot of it was just hipsters like trying to be artists. And
I'm from Portland. I can appreciate that.
So it was like about midnight, and my friend and I were like, all right, let's bounce out of here. And we went to a bar, and we got to the bar, and I like looked at my phone, and I had a direct message on Twitter, and I look, and it's like someone who follows me on Twitter, and he was like, hey, this is super random, but were you at a warehouse art party tonight? Because I follow you, and I could have sworn it was you, and I wanted to come say hi, but I was like feeling awkward and embarrassed about it. But yeah, I just wanted to see if it was really you. And I was like, yeah, that was me. Like, oh my God, like how weird. Like I just got like spotted in the wild by like someone who follows me on Twitter. Like I've never had that happen before. And it was really cool. I wish you would have come up and said hi at the event, but you know, so it goes.
I've had situations like that as well. It's like sometimes, you know, especially at events like Maker Faire, you can see people orbiting, you know, you can see that they're wanting to come up, and it's like, you know, either I'll go up and be like, hey, how are you? And try to like break the ice, or, you know, sometimes I'll sit back and watch and just wait for how long they'll orbit. And you can tell sometimes they're super nervous, and it's like, I always like just try to turn it back on them. It's just like, you know, I'm nobody, like, you know, tell me about what makes you special. What are you building? And then they'll open up. And but I've definitely had those same things where people have spotted me like in the airport, and they're like tweeting about it, and I'm just like tweeting back, like, well, come over and say hi.
I'm standing right here.
I won't bite.
Just wait till you get to the point, Emily, where you go to another Maker Faire or some event, and somebody comes up and they recognize you, and then they follow you around for like 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun too. It's like, you're still here. Hey, how you doing? And they just kind of hang around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's that celebrity thing. I don't really want to be super famous because of that. I don't think I'd ever really enjoy that. Yeah.
I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this last night. He was at Maker Faire, and he said that happens to him sometimes. And then he's just like, man, like, I have had enough of this person. So he's always just like, hey, let me introduce you to my friend. You're going to like this person. And he takes him to some friend of his. And then he's like, you guys talk. And then he just walks off and leaves him there.
Exit stage left. That's so mean.
Crazy. We got about maybe 10 minutes left in the podcast. So, Jeri, I'd love to kind of give the rest of this to you to tell us all about your latest project, which is more than just a workbench project. So,
yeah. Well, you know, I've worked in startups for most of my career. And a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, I started a startup called Cast AR, where we're doing augmented reality glasses. Got a lot of momentum on that, ended up taking some venture capital, some things went sideways and the company had to shut down. But the technology for this AR system was still good. So a group of us from the company that had been working on it, they pooled all of our money, and we went out and purchased the patents and the assets, and we rebootstrapped the company under the name Tilt 5. So now I'm on my second startup called Tilt 5, where we're doing augmented reality glasses. And so these are the glasses. These actually have some stars on them because we were being silly the other day and a lightning bolt. But what we're doing is we're taking augmented reality, where you can take computer graphics and blend it into the world. And we're merging that with video games and board games. So you slip on the glasses, look at your table, video games just spring out of the table. So taking all the best of what you like about board games, video games, bring them together. It's pretty exciting. There's a lot of really cool tech in this, and it's taken us a long time to develop, and it's great that we're finally starting to be able to show examples of what it can do. You know, for instance, the other day, we showed our first card-based demo where you can put cards down on the game board and video game characters spring out of the table and fight each other and have this Western battle. We have some other really cool, like blended reality experiences we're going to show in a week or two, where we're going to put some physical objects down, and then we're going to wrap them in graphics.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where does the Tilt 5 name come from?
That's an inside joke, and we're not going to reveal that.
I didn't.
Partly because it's a little mean, and partly it just makes people, wonder. It's kind of fun. People speculate what it means.
It's a great name, though. It's just like, and the logo. I can't rave enough about the friggin' logo.
Oh, you like the logo? It's like an STP oil logo. Is it because you're into cars?
No, it's just the colors, and it's just there you go. Cool. It's just a perfectly awesome, well-balanced, round logo. Emily, I think, would agree. Round logos are the shit. You can put them on anything. They just go anywhere. And it's just a great, lowercase t and a 5 and just the way that.
All right, I'll tell the gang that they did good. I had very little to do with it. I think I was actually the most negative on the logo when we were selecting a logo.
It's cool.
But I'm terrible at those kinds of things.
I can see so many possibilities for this too, besides, just the tabletop gaming. I've mentioned you a couple times on Twitter, and there's just so many, you got the wand that you use. Well, what if you just put on a pair of gloves, right, that have sensors on each? No, it's not a barbecue lighter. It's actually a wand.
We've been having fun on Twitter because, at Cast AR, part of the reason that we failed is that we weren't focused and we were trying to be too corporate, and our investors brought in these big corporate executives that pushed us even more into being like douchey corporate. And so now on the Tilt 5 Twitter account, it's like run by one of our people who's going to remain nameless for the moment. And she, not me, is bringing a very unique and genuine voice to the company, and people are really responding to it. It's fun.
You're getting a good buzz going. There's a great buzz happening with it on Twitter. I like it.
Yeah, and like the barbecue lighter thing, people are like, it looks like a barbecue lighter. Like, okay, fine, it looks like a barbecue lighter. So we made a quick game demo where you just hold it over the game board, you pull the trigger, and it lights up a flame. It's like, yeah,
fire.
Oh yeah, it looks like a barbecue lighter. Love it. You're gonna love it.
You come back to the fire thing.
So part of our system, and this is, for your more nerdy followers, what makes it special is we've turned the optical system inside out. So there's a lot of AR, VR systems that try to put the light directly into your eye. And that's a really difficult problem. It has a lot of pitfalls and give people headaches because it's fixed focus. Usually on augmented reality, you end up with really tiny images. So our system's 110-degree field of view, and it fills the entire game board, but you need to use the game board because the game board is actually part of the optical system. Okay. And what we've done is we've coated the game board with this material called retroreflector. So light leaves the glasses through these special reflectors here, and then go out to the game board, and then the light retroflects only back to the glasses that have projected it. So you can have any number of users around the system, the game board, seeing their own view into the virtual scene.
Yeah.
And then you can still, like, the lenses are transparent, so you can see your hands, and you can start wrapping things with graphics. And
so each pair of glasses kind of has a unique signature embedded into the light thing?
No, it's that optical material. So here's a piece of it. It's won't be able to demonstrate it on film here, but this silver material is retroreflector. It's like what's on road signs. That's why road signs look so bright at night.
Okay. Yeah, like the little beads kind of a thing.
Yeah. And so we only put out 0.6 lumens of light, but it's super bright coming back because all the light is emitted from your eyes and then comes back to your eyes.
That's great. It's such a lightweight, minimalist piece of headgear too, compared to so many things in the past that are just giant.
Yeah. So I mean, we like to compare it. We're a quarter the weight of the other systems. We're typically about 1/10 the cost, and like almost none of the systems are like this kind of form factor where you just, unfold them and slip them on just like glasses. Most of them are like, you crank them to your head like a welding helmet.
Can you wear those over if you have prescription glasses? Are they able to be?
Yeah. We put a lot of relief behind the lenses, and then we have different nose pieces so you can change them out. We actually have a nose piece that grabs glasses. So if you have like chunky glasses that you can't get a nose piece to your nose.
That's great. That's some good thinking and R&D research stuff. That's great. That's really cool.
Well, my background, I did a lot of consumer products. And so I've been working on this for years. So I've been trying to refine it down with the team to make it so it's a consumer product. So it's just, we're going for instant fun. Flip the game board open, slip the glasses on, and start playing a game. Cool. So everything you need is going to be in the box. So, the wand, the game board, and the glasses. No sensors or anything. You don't have to clear out your furniture in your living room. It's just fun right in front of you.
Great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make it so elevator pitchy.
No, it's perfect. I mean, it's exactly what it is. It's just
I've been having to go, like, there's an area in Silicon Valley called Sand Hill Road where you go and raise venture capital money.
yeah.
Like, I could go total douchey elevator pitch, but
You've had a lot of practice, I'm sure.
yeah.
Well, it looks like we're gonna wrap it up for this week. This has been fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's episode 9, Coast to Coast, Hackaweek.
So you want to take us out with the keep on hacking thing?
Keep on hacking.
There we go. All right. Good enough till next time. Bye.